Hey everybody, Ryan Chichak here, Solution Architect at Databricks. And today I'm psyched to talk to you about the new feature of having IRC inside of Unity Catalog, allowing you to connect your external engines to read and write managed iceberg tables inside of Databricks. And I'm going to go through a demo, and then I'm also providing a repository in GitHub to follow this demo. It couldn't be any easier to follow. I made sure it was easy, and you have to do a minimal amount to make it work. So this is what we're talking about today: full iceberg support in Databricks. And we're really talking about the external engine being able to connect into UC via the Iceberg REST catalog connection. And we're going to do that today. And for this demo, we're gonna spin up a Databricks workspace from scratch, and we're gonna spin up an EMR cluster from scratch. We're gonna connect the EMR cluster using Spark SQL into Databricks, and we're going to insert data into a table. We're gonna select data from a table, showing you how this works, as this feature was announced at Data Summit. And the first thing I want to do is I want to show you this project. I'm going to go through this project. The most important thing is to fill out what it says here in the prereqs, making sure AWS CLI is installed, and then you put your access key and secret key in, and also your region. Therefore, Terraform knows how to create your EMR cluster. And then also all of the Databricks information. We'll go through this, but I want to run this right now. All I have to do is you see I have this repository cloned to my local Mac, my MacBook, and all I'm going to have to do is do a create and run, and that's it. All I have to do is run that script and just have some variables defined. And it's off to the races. All these resources are being created from scratch. And let me show you what I mean. My workspace did not exist before. I had no resources. I didn't have an S3 bucket, credentials. I didn't have cross account roles, all the things needed to create a workspace in AWS. That's exactly what Terraform is doing right now. It's creating all of these things for me, as you can see. And we're going to go through each process, and then we're going to have a lot of fun when everything's created. We'll get an email once this workspace is created, and then we'll be able to start creating tables and such. But the first thing I want to do is I want to talk about this Terraform template that I created. You want to create a terraform.tf vars file and put it into the main directory of this project. Therefore, you'll have another file called terraform.tf vars. And then you're going to put prefix. My prefix is my last name, Chichak, and therefore all of your resources are labeled with the prefix. And then your client ID and secret key. What I did here, if you go into user management, I have a service principal and I call it Chichak SP. And here you can generate a secret, and the secret is going to give you your client ID and client secret. This is the OAuth authentication that Terraform is going to use to generate the workspace and all the other credentials. And then your Databricks account ID. In my case, here is the UUID for the Databricks account ID. And I just fill those in. And then for tags, typically when we're talking about tags in AWS, this is how we tag resources. Here, the owner is a little bit more important. This is your email to access your Databricks workspace. And the reason that this is so important is because Terraform is going to create the proper permissions. So you have use schema, create table, select, modify, all the proper permissions you're going to need to access your catalog. That's going to be provided here, as well as when the workspace is created, the user here, the email, is going to be an admin for that workspace. If we open the script back up, you can see the Databricks, you can see that this is being created, the workspace. Should be created any second here. And then again, once it's created, I'll get this email and then we'll see that it was created. And that's something nice that Databricks does. When you add someone, it's going to specify that they can access that workspace. And then the environment, again, that's just a tag that I created. And then what region you want to run in. In our case, in this case, I pick US East 2 because I'm from Ohio. I like to support Ohio. You can see here, I just got that my service principal is inviting me to the workspace that I just named Databricks. I could join here or we'll join via the workspace here inside of this admin console. As I was saying about the region, US East 2 is pretty decent. Again, supporting Ohio, but usually there's not enough resources, and I like to pick some random region as I'll choose. And then the allowed SSH CIDR block. This is my IP address. That's important for connecting into EMR. I put my IP there. And then the EMR release, as of right now, EMR 7.9 is the latest and greatest, which it's July 1st, 2025. And then the components running in EMR that we want to use, Spark. And then if you look at the main.tf, I specify I want to use Iceberg too. Therefore, the Iceberg libraries will be provided in this EMR cluster. Very important, something you don't have to worry about because it's already done for you. And then finally, the UC AWS account. Something that I am blown away about how great Databricks is Unity Catalog is a software as a service. The resources are managed on the Databricks side, your compute and storage. Those costs are taken care of from a Databricks perspective. And Unity Catalog is a free service. It's something that you get as a perk. Other vendors, like I'm used to in the past, they'll let you run their governance and security in your VPC. You're going to incur the compute and storage costs, and those are typically the compute's running 24/7 for these governance and security. This is a huge Databricks perk that I don't think enough people talk about unless it's just well known, as I've only been with Databricks for about 5 months. And then if you want to get into the EMR connection, again, if you look at how we have this configured from the main.tf, all of this is taken care of for you. All you have to do is fill this out. But if you already have an EMR cluster where you want to use the Iceberg REST catalog, this is exactly the connection string that you have to change just the catalog name and then your workspace URL, and finally the client ID and client secret. That goes back to the OAuth authentication. And then the star of the show, as you can see here, when we're talking about the catalog, the IRC Iceberg REST catalog, this is the connection string. And this is the star of the show, the Iceberg REST. This is the API that is using my workspace. And you can see right now we have the EMR cluster being spun up. My Databricks cluster was spun up in 2 minutes and 25 seconds, or my Databricks workspace, I should say. And you can see EMR is about at 3.5 minutes spinning up. It's a very basic EMR cluster, only Spark, and 1 master node, 2 worker nodes. If we go into here, if we refresh the EMR clusters, you can see here is the cluster that is starting up. You can see the creation time was 4 minutes ago, and you can see the elapsed time is almost 4 minutes, which is tracking with exactly what we have here. This is talking about what's found to be non-self-assuming. Again, the script I have, the create.sh, it's going to do all the magic for you. You have to make your script non-assuming because we're creating the cross-account role. And then once it's created, you can make it assuming to itself, but you can't do that until it's created. That's what this is doing. It's an error that is handled from the script. If we look at the EMR cluster, the EMR cluster is finally up and running. You can see it took about 4 minutes. 2 minutes, 25 seconds versus 4 minutes. The difference between creating a basic EMR cluster versus a basic Databricks workspace. Interesting that it takes twice as long to create the EMR resources. Now we'll continue to let the cluster to let the script do its thing to finish out. But what we're going to do now is we're going to connect to the EMR primary node, and we're going to collect the EC2 host name as we're connecting to right now. And what we're going to do is come into here. Excellent. So this is now we have EMR, and what we're going to do to have this work is we're going to run Spark dash SQL, which is going to allow a Spark SQL shell to be spun up in EMR, and then we're going to run some SQL commands. And you can see now what's happening is the schema is being created and the permissions within the schema are being created. You can see all count users, my specific owner, and you can see all privileges, use schema, etc. And everything is done. And it was just that easy to create that script. Now what we'll do is we're going to run the Spark SQL. And then this is going to connect to my Unity Catalog IRC. And while it connects, what we'll do is inside of our Databricks workspace, here you can see this is now running. And everything's taken care of for us, the network, credentials, etc. And then permissions, the user you're specifying as the owner tag is the admin. And then we'll go open up the workspace. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my SQL warehouse. And you can see that this is a Pro SQL warehouse, meaning that this would be a PaaS instance that would spin up inside of my VPC. I don't want that. I want to go serverless. I want to take this existing warehouse and upgrade it to serverless. Boom, I'm done. Wow, that was fast. And then I'm going to run that serverless, and running serverless takes a few seconds. And we're going to let's go into our catalog. You can see that I have my CheChat catalog. Again, my prefix is my last name. And then the default schema doesn't have any tables. Let's change that. Let's go into the SQL editor. We're going to create a table, and let's call this, let's do create table. I like to use people as a test. I'm going to do a very basic table, an ID int name string using iceberg. And then we're going to run that. But first we have to attach it to our serverless warehouse. And then we're going to execute that. All right. And then that is going to create that table. Excellent. And then you can see from the EMR perspective, we can go into select star from. Default is my schema, and then people iceberg. And there should be no records because we just created the table. And it's going to see that there are no records. Now let's have some fun. And this is what I love to showcase, is the simplicity of how the IRC works with EMR using, the UC connection. If we do insert into default, people iceberg, values, and then let's start adding some people. I'll add myself. I'll add my wife. We'll add 2 records. And we're going to do that with EMR. And then if we go back into here, all we have to do is select from people iceberg and select. And then this should have those 2 records that we just inserted with EMR. You can see Ryan, Nicole, and then let's have some even more fun. Insert into people iceberg and then values, and then let's add some more people. I'll add my son Connor. And then for some more people, we'll add Nigel. All right, so that's adding 2 more people. I'll insert that into that table. And then here on the flip side, if I do a select star from people iceberg, this is going to select, you can see I have all of these users. If I want to order by ID, we'll do that, just adding the order clause. And you can see it's really that simple. It's EMR is now connecting to Unity Catalog via the IRC, and we're able to interact with external engines. And this is the power of Iceberg using Unity Catalog, because Unity Catalog is opening up to all engines, not just EMR, but Trino, any other third-party engine you want to use. All you have to use is the Iceberg REST connection that I showcase inside here, Iceberg REST. And it is really that simple. And you can create compute, you can do all purpose, you can do serverless, you can have notebooks that interact with this catalog. But again, this catalog is not something that a customer is paying for. This is something that Databricks is providing as a service, a free SaaS offering that, again, you're not running these resources inside of your VPC. Huge perk. All right, and it's that simple. And then once you're all done, is I can run, one more select. Let's do a select count just to really hit the point across that we have 4 records. Right, I'm not going to order a count, right? Uh, so this is going to run, it's going to provide 4 records from an EMR perspective. All right, you can see that. There's the 4 records. And once you're done, you can run back here. You're going to run delete. And then what's going to happen is all the resources that were just spun up from Terraform, including your workspace and EMR, they're all going to be spun down. And that just takes a few seconds. And you can see that it's going to go to terminating. And it really is that simple that you can just have your resources spin up with Terraform and then spun down with Terraform. And if I look here, you can see the cluster that we just created is now spinning down. And it'll take a couple minutes or less than a minute to do this. And it's really that easy. I hope this made a lot of sense to you, and I hope you're able to use this and it's as simple for you to run as it was for myself. I had a lot of fun using Terraform, creating the tools that Databricks provides out of the box, using the Terraform modules. And let me know if you have any questions or comments. Have a great day, everybody.